Let's begin with the foundations. Welcome to another lecture. Today we consider Stacey King, a figure who, you see, embodied two distinct yet interconnected basketball lives. First, as an NBA center who contributed to Chicago's early 1990s championships, and later as a beloved television voice of the Bulls. It is worth noting with sobriety that he died in June 2026 in River Forest, Illinois. Initial reports mentioned a fall, though the precise cause awaits autopsy. We approach his story with respect, clarity, and, as it were, a careful look at evidence.
Hello everyone. I'm Priyanka. I'm really looking forward to this. Stacey King's career kind of feels like two arcs stitched together, which, makes it rich to study.
To frame our discussion, think of a player's career like a relay race. On the court, King ran the first legs as a big man for the Bulls. Then he handed the baton to his broadcasting self, who sprinted through 2 decades of games with humor and pedagogy. In simpler terms, he moved from setting screens and protecting the rim to setting context and protecting meaning for viewers. Technically speaking, Stacey King played center in the NBA, a role concerned with interior defense, rebounding, and post-scoring in defined bursts. He was drafted 6th overall in 1989 by Chicago. Later, he became a color commentator, that is to say, the analyst who complements the play-by-play with tactical insight and tone. For scope, the NBA is the premier men's league in North America. The CBA was the U.S. minor league that often served as a developmental and second-chance ecosystem. And his transitions through the CBA and overseas illustrate the journeyman dynamics that many veterans face when injuries intervene.
I think the relevance is twofold. First, in NBA history, his 3 championships tell us something about how role players matter. Second, in modern sports media, his catchphrases and fan rapport show how a broadcaster can shape the culture around a team. Isn't it interesting how someone without superstar box scores can still be central in the memory of a city?
Indeed, and it's important to understand the historical misreadings. Contemporary writers such as Sam Smith observed that King entered a roster already dominated by Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen. Thus, his on-court ceiling in Chicago was shaped more by context than by raw talent. Jack Maloney later summarized that he never quite matched his college hype. Yet we observe that he embraced a role that contributed to collective success, which arguably is the most underappreciated currency in championship teams.
A couple of striking facts first. There is a reported episode early in his Oklahoma years where he sustained 1st and 2nd degree burns in a summer car accident and missed an all-star type showcase. The exact event label is ambiguous in public records, but the setback and recovery are real. And then, much later, his broadcasting phrase, "Gimme the hot sauce," became, basically a civic chant for Bulls fans.
That's a helpful point. Chronology helps. Drafted by the Bulls in 1989, King played all 82 games as a rookie, and even started 2 playoff games in place of Scottie Pippen, producing notable spot performances. From 1991 to 1993, he was a rotational contributor on 3 consecutive titles. In Game 6 of the 1992 Finals, he helped power a 15-point fourth-quarter comeback to clinch the championship. In 1994, he was traded for Luke Longley and a second-round pick. Minnesota yielded one of his better statistical seasons, though he later described that stretch as personally frustrating. Thereafter came Miami, injuries, the CBA, short NBA contracts, overseas assignments, and finally coaching in the CBA before moving into the Bulls broadcast booth in 2006-2007 and ascending to lead color duties in 2008. Before we get to the complexities, a brief personal note. Figures like King demonstrate how sport becomes a shared narrative instrument. We attach meaning not only to the obvious protagonists, but also to the voices who narrate them. His calls of Derrick Rose's highlights, his playful nicknames from Windy City Assassin to Vucci Main, all of this shaped how a city felt its team in real time. Moving forward, three questions organize our inquiry. First, historically, how should we assess King's role in the Bulls' 1992 title clincher? Second, counterfactually, what if Sacramento had drafted him first overall in 1989? Third, present day, what is the durable impact of his broadcasting style on fan culture and local telecasts? Big question one. In the 1992 Finals, Game 6, the Bulls trailed by double digits in the fourth quarter. King's minutes were emblematic of what we might call leverage-heavy role play. He offered size, interior deterrence, and timely offense in the flow, which, combined with Chicago's stars, flipped the game. In this context, we do not measure utility solely by minutes or points per game. Rather, we parse situational impact in the very moments that decide a series.
I'm curious about that leverage idea. If someone plays, say, limited minutes, how do we understand their significance without overreading small samples?
It's crucial to understand the ecology of a playoff rotation. A bench center absorbs fouls that would otherwise sideline starters. He resets matchups, sets hard screens that free primary scorers, and provides a brief but necessary vertical threat. Mathematically, the marginal possession swing in a fourth quarter can outweigh a dozen routine second quarter shifts. Thus, the value function here is nonlinear. King's readiness in those minutes, after accepting a non-glamorous role, contributed to a 15-point reversal that closed the series. This is the championship arithmetic of depth. We also place this within his earlier trajectory. As a rookie, he displayed capacity when entrusted with more usage, including 2 playoff spot starts averaging 17 points and 5 rebounds. Later, when Bill Cartwright missed time, King covered stretches effectively. The through line is adaptability under constraint.
So yeah, moving on to the counterfactual. What if the Sacramento Kings had taken him number 1? Do we think his college-level dominance could have translated into a franchise centerpiece role?
Let's proceed to the next point. Counterfactuals are, by nature, bounded thought experiments. If King had entered the roster seeking a first option big, we can infer he would have received higher usage, broader developmental latitude, and less immediate championship pressure. The trade-off might have been more counting statistics and fewer early playoff lessons. Chicago's context, with Pippen and Grant already embedded, required him to compress his game into high-efficiency fragments. A rebuilding Sacramento would have stretched it across entire games, with associated variability in efficiency and defense.
I often think about team context as a training environment. Can we say that the structure around a young big, coaching stability, roster fit, determines whether his weaknesses are exposed or sanded down?
This logically leads us to developmental economics in sport. Roster topology dictates role. Role dictates repetitions. Repetitions dictate learning curves. In Chicago, King confronted a ceiling created by elite forwards. The benefit was learning playoff problem solving, culminating in 3 rings. In a hypothetical number 1 scenario, he might have chased star volume with variable team outcomes. Neither path is intrinsically superior, but the Chicago outcome demonstrates how accepting a role can maximize team-level success even as it limits individual accolades. On to our next point, the present-day legacy of his broadcasting. Elevated to lead color in 2008, first with Neil Funk and later Adam Amin, King crafted an on-air persona that fused analysis with exuberance. Gimme the Hot Sauce became a sonic brand. His nicknames, from Windy City Assassin for Derek Rose to Vucci Main for Nikola Vucevic, translated tactical traits into memorable handles. The effect was pedagogical and communal. Viewers learned why a play worked and felt permission to celebrate it loudly.
What comes to mind next is personality. How much does an announcer's style, shape the fan experience and even the team's identity?
In this context, personality is not mere ornament. It is an interpretive lens. King's cadence, humor, and timing amplified Derrick Rose-era highlights into collective memory. His pop culture nicknames met younger fans where they already lived online. We also note institutional steadiness. Through network shifts in 2024 to the Chicago Sports Network and changes at play-by-play, his voice provided continuity. To elaborate, the broadcast booth often becomes the most stable connective tissue a regional fan base has with its team. Methodologically, much remains to be studied. One could imagine content analyses of call phrasing, fan sentiment surveys pre- and post-catchphrase proliferation, and correlations between telecast tone and social media engagement. The preliminary hypothesis is straightforward. Clear analysis plus joyous delivery increases comprehension and attachment.
Maybe it's just me, but the way his voice became part of everyday fandom feels as significant as a stat milestone. Also, a quick caution for completeness. Some sources loosely call him the tournament MVP in 1988. Historically, Danny Manning is listed as the Final Four most outstanding player, so we should keep that distinction clear.
Clearly, precision matters. We celebrate the genuine achievements. A 1988 title game appearance with 17 points and 7 rebounds, without importing accolades that belong elsewhere. Likewise, regarding his passing, we note the autopsy is pending. We avoid speculation beyond established reporting. To summarize, Stacey King was both a championship role player and a signature broadcaster. We examined his leveraged role in the 1992 clincher. We considered the what-if of a #1 overall draft slot. And we traced how his broadcast personality, Gimme the Hot Sauce and beyond, shaped fan culture. For further study, one might track the evolution of regional sports telecasts as cultural institutions, particularly through periods of media realignment.
That was helpful to think through, actually. Thank you for listening. Take care, everyone.